Can you describe your experience with the Humvee and its explosion?
Sure. So it was like every other patrol. I went on about 150 combat patrols while I was deployed in and around Taji, Iraq, and this was no different. It was a very hot day, and I believe it was September 2006. So this was the heat of the insurgency. If you look up Iraq, 2006 was our most deadly year. It was after we had invaded Iraq, kind of established somewhat of a government, and the insurgency had really risen, and they'd figured out how to blow us up with IEDs, improvised explosive devices. So they were no longer shooting at us because they knew that they couldn't win that battle. So they were hiding bombs underneath the road, attaching a wire to them, running the wire 300-400 yards out into a field, and then touching it to a car battery, and that made the bomb go off underneath the road. So 2006, the improvised explosive device was a very unique tactic and something that we encountered about 12 times out of those 150 patrols. But this particular day, we were on the east side of Baghdad, right along the Tigris River, and we were conducting a kind of an RNS patrol, recon and surveillance patrol. We were just kind of driving around. I was in the third Humvee, an M1114 up-armored Humvee. I was in the back seat behind the driver. And as we pulled around this corner, all I heard was kind of a boom noise. And the Humvee lifted up, and all I could really see was black. And that was the asphalt from underneath the street kind of just being blown up in front of us. And so as you can see from the pictures, the front of the Humvee was pretty much blown off. But none of us got seriously injured, which was great. If it would have been a second longer, that the bomb would have gone off underneath the Humvee where there wasn't armor, and that would have pretty much been the end for most of us. So I didn't really have time to think about it, though. After about 10 seconds of kind of getting our bearings, I had to dismount, which meant I had to get out of the Humvee, which was tough because it was angled over, so I had to push the armored door up. Since I was on the left side behind the driver, the bomb hit the front right side. And once I got out, I had a couple other guys, and we kind of looked around, and we saw some military-aged males with a video camera, and then they started running. And so then for the next 2 hours, we cleared this village, only about 5 or 6 of us, while we waited for reinforcements. And it was 100 million degrees outside, and I had all my gear on, all the water was left in the Humvee. So I didn't really have time to be scared or think about what happened. I just wanted water and wanted someone to come relieve me. So that was probably one of the most physically demanding days of my life, but lucky to get out of there unscathed. And the worst part was we had just got the air conditioning working better in the Humvee. Man, it took us a couple hours the week before, and now the Humvee was going to the motor pool and scrapped for parts. So It's funny what you think about when you're on patrol is you're worried about the air conditioning and you're worried about water. You're not really thinking about the fact that you almost got blown up.
Yeah. Given that experience oftentimes for a lot of people that serve can be so traumatic even once they return home, have you at any point or others that you've served with suffered from PTSD?
I have not, which is I'm very blessed. Everyone's brain reacts differently. I know guys that saw a lot more intense combat than me, and they're kind of like me. They don't really think about it at all. They're cool to talk about it. They don't have nightmares, etc. And then I had people in my platoon that barely saw any combat that were just, mentally unstable the second we got back to the States. So it's a real sickness and a real disease, but everyone's brain reacts differently to trauma and intensity. But for me, I've been blessed that I haven't had any ill effects from it.
Yeah. And why do you think it's important for people to attempt to understand those types of detrimental effects on soldiers' mental and physical health?
Well, I think physical, everyone can kind of see and understand. A soldier has lost an arm, a leg, a hand, they have a scar on their face, something like that. I think we can all have some empathy for those folks and not really understand, but see that, they were affected by this war in this horrible way, and we can, help them do what we need to do. The mental aspect is something that you can't see and you don't really know how to address, and that's kind of the biggest challenge for soldiers coming home that do have PTSD and other mental ailments is that you can't just see it and have it be easily understood by others. So trying to learn about it, trying to learn about signs and warning signs for people that are suffering those types of diseases is definitely something that'd be important for not only family members to know and friends of the people, but just the general public and as a whole, so they can understand a little bit about what they're going through.
Yeah. And so being a veteran now, when people thank you for your service, because, that's the book that we're reading about, it discusses kind of the irony in that statement and how so many people are not fully informed of how genuinely grateful they should be. Does it feel genuine when people give you that statement, and does it feel like enough?
Well, first of all, it is enough because, remember, we were not drafted into the military. Draft has been out since Vietnam. There hasn't been a draft since Vietnam. So everyone who's in the military decided to join the military. They made that choice on their own. Nobody in America told them to do that, right? So they made that choice for themselves just as much as for the other people in this country. So I think I have a unique view on that, don't feel sorry for me or don't feel like you're indebted to thank me for something that I chose to do. So when people thank you for their service, a couple things. In the corporate setting or at a store, when you get a military discount, a lot of times they're required to read off a script. Thank you for your service. And you can tell they're just going through the motions. But occasionally I can tell someone really is interested, and they'll maybe ask about my story, ask about how long I'm in. It soaks in, listen, and then they thank me after, then they thank me once it soaks in. So it's always enough if you thank someone, but you may want to ask them first. Oh, you're in the military? What did you do?
Right.
Were you deployed? Where were you? And kind of listen to what they say and then thank them. Because it'll help you understand a little more what they went through, because a lot of the people in the military never get deployed to a war zone. A lot of people in the military don't see combat. They all deserve the same thank you, but maybe mentally, if you learn a little bit about the person before you thank them, it can show a little more meaning.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I know some things, may be hard to revisit and whatnot, but we just really appreciate being able to learn from, what you gave up for our country in general.
Absolutely. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
And good luck on the book.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it, Sam.
All right, see ya.